Hi guys, I'm Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Raising Babe Reviews. And today I'll be doing another book recap. This recap will be on Mise in Death by Nikki Woolfolk. And beautiful people, here is your cover via Goodreads. And of course, as always, I will list it somewhere in this video so that you can see it, okay, throughout the recap. All right, so let's get to it, shall we? All right, I have redone this video, redone, whatever. I have done this video over way too many times. Earlier today, I kept jacking up my words, and I wasn't even drinking for my speech to be so jacked up and slurred. Then some phone calls came in, then I took a nap, and it was just like, you know what, just do it later before the sun goes down. So that's what I'm doing. So thank you if you're still here after listening to me ramble, and let's get to it, shall we? All right, so again, this is Mise in Death by Nikki Woolfolk. This is a murder mystery. It has steampunk elements to it. Yeah, it has steampunk elements to it. There's some romantic elements to it, as our main character, which is Alex LeBeau, actually comes across what kind of she also develops a romantic relationship, a same-sex relationship. She actually develops a relationship with a woman throughout this story, and it's also a woman that actually helps her as she tries to solve this murder. Right now, this is only, I believe, the first book, the first and only book in the series. After the title on the book on Goodreads, it actually has Bittersweet Mysteries. So actually, the full title of the book is Mise in Death, a LeBeau Chocolate's Adventure. So I don't know if the author will be writing more books. Like I said, after the title, it had Bittersweet Mysteries in it. So I don't know if she'll be doing more books. But right now, Mise in Death is the only book right now. I actually have to go to her website and see. So anyway, let me just give you a general background on the, I'll just give you a general description. I won't read the whole book description, and this is from Goodreads. So you have Alex LeBeau, who is a chocolatier and a chef, and she actually is a chef instructor inside of the book, because whereas before she was like this traveling chef, she decided to go back home, which is in Louisiana, to help out a friend who lost a cook in his school. A chef in his school. He actually has a school that he runs in Louisiana. And Alex, as a favor, goes back to help him out by taking on a job that this chef just up and suddenly left. Also, Alex, while she's been traveling and stuff, she has been in some romantical mishaps and you know, things like that. So her going back home, you know, and taking this job, you know, at her friend's school, you know, it's just to get herself back grounded again, and you know, stuff like that. Alex also has a son. His name is Pierre. So what happens is, when Alex goes back to this school, goes back to Louisiana, her first job at the school is taking on this job that the other chef had, which was they were catering this I'm sweaty. They were catering this how you want to say it? Yeah, this event that was going to happen on this airship for this wealthy woman. And during the events or during the party that has happened on this airship, the woman that actually gave the party was murdered. And Alex gets involved in the murder mysteries because her son is actually accused of murdering this woman. And I'll give you a little bit background on that as well. This is how Alex comes in, trying to solve this murder and get her son off. All right, so I'll just go through my notes and we will start from there. As you guys see, every little review will be different for me. So, Alex's son gets accused of the murder because of this. I'll just read you a paragraph from the book that I highlighted. Though Alex was fully aware of her privilege, her privilege could not protect her son per se. She could use it for something good. As a Creole woman in the post-insurrection, she was aware of her privilege over Anglo men, white men, and their ancestors who created the causes for the uprising in the first place. Oppression, slavery, and any forms of inequality against black, brown, or native folks ceased after the insurrection of 1856. Any Anglo men with the desire to create or fix anything more than a calculated machine required heavy licensing fees. Even if any Anglo man had the rare fortune to have a few coins in his pocket, the mounds of paperwork and psychological evaluations would break his spirit. Attempting genocide of the native peoples and the oh my God, what is going on with me today? Jesus. And the enslavement of people from the motherland drove the policies and regulations of the new America. So, Alex's son gets accused, just to give you a little bit insight as to why Alex's son was accused. Alex's son is mixed. He's half black, half white, but he looks more white. Also, Alex's son is in training to become an engineer. So on this airship, the woman that was giving this party, she had this main engineer and this designer build this contraption that she saw when she was on her travels in China. It was something that automatically did something that made popcorn easier to pop, something like that. It was this big, huge contraption that they built. Well, the engineer had brought someone to help him, in case there were some minor things that they had to fix with this contraption. And all of a sudden, this man disappeared, right? He didn't show up to work. Alex's son, because he was in training to become an engineer, Alex kind of like put that out there to the woman, and she was just like, but the thing was, as I read, white men, they had no power to do anything. So Alex's son, even though he was in training to become this engineer, whatever, he wasn't supposed to actually assist in helping in anything until he actually got his license. And this is why he was accused of this murder and not the man that actually built the machine. Because he was white, he looked more white, and two, because he wasn't supposed to be helping, fix, because there was a problem with the contraption before the airship went off, and someone did something where they put a gun inside of the contraption. So when the contraption, just think of kind of like a domino effect, when the contraption started working and things started going, the gun actually went off, and because the woman was standing in front of it, she was shot. So because Alex's son looked more white than anything, and because he wasn't supposed to have been helping fix anything, he was automatically accused of this woman's murder. initially. Okay, so the dynamics of the story I kind of enjoyed, because you had like this reverse world where women and black, brown, and native people were in power now. White men were below the totem pole. There seemed to have been like this kind of like, I guess you want to say like a civil war or uprising, and all the bullshit that's going on now, where you have all these old, flaccid, disgusting white men in power, and they're fucking up everything. This was kind of what was going on back then. But this civil war happened, this uprising happened, and women gained power, especially women of color, and native women. They gained power, and now women were in, they were in power, and they were controlling everything. And what happened was, there was this committee that was formed of women, of course, that kept these balances in check, to also make sure that these men could, would, or never gain power again. Okay, so that's the dynamics of that. Alex takes on this role of trying to solve this murder, because she feels like, because my son is half white, and because he looks more white, he basically, the cops are basically going to pin this crime on him. She felt like they're not going to really do any investigating. They're just going to say he did it and that's it, and they were going to lock him up. And Alex, when the murder was going on, the airship kind of like was going down. It was about to crash, but Alex is kind of like a jack of all trades, right? The only thing the woman couldn't do was drive, which was just fucking hysterical to me, because this woman could fight like most of the women in the story. She could fight, and I mean not like fight, you guys. I mean like knife fight, boxing. These women were kicking asses and taking names, okay? And I mean, they were fighting grown ass men as well. They weren't just fighting other women. They were fighting like grown ass men too. So but it cracked me up that this woman can do all of this other stuff, but ass couldn't drive. It was freaking hysterical. Her son ended up like being like her personal kind of like chauffeur. So, and she like inherited this car, and she couldn't freaking drive it. It was just like, what? So that was funny to me. But where was I? So Alex figured, I have to, so during the party, after the woman was murdered, the person that murdered her actually set it up where the airship was going to crash. Alex ends up saving the day. She ends up somehow, some way, like getting control of this airship and actually landing it before, it crashed and everybody perished in like this fiery ass death. So and Alex actually saw who the person was that actually murdered the wealthy woman. I can't remember the woman's name right now. That's why I keep saying, the wealthy woman, because I can't remember her name, and I'm not trying to go back throughout the book and figure all that mess out. So so Alex kind of like figures she has to solve this murder, because she already knew that the police were going to like half-heartedly do their job, because they figured, we have someone, it's a white man, he had to have done it, because they feel like, any white man that got in trouble these days, that where murder or any type of crime was involved, they were kind of like resentful and mad, because now they no longer were in power. So they probably would do anything, especially the murder of this wealthy woman, who was also part of the committee of the women that kept all of this, that kept all this shit in control. So, that was that. So Alex figured, I have to do this. I have to solve this murder, because the cops aren't going to, they're going to half-heartedly do it, and my son is going to go to jail. And Alex also kind of like, not intentionally, but she kind of like pointed the finger at her son, because when she was getting questioned after the airship was landed and the police came in to investigate, Alex kind of figured like, when she was being questioned, she kind of like told on her son. She was the one that actually let the thing, let it out that her son was actually assisting in fixing a contraption that actually ended up killing this woman. So, and that's how her son kind of got like, got the finger pointed at in the murder initially. And Alex, she couldn't take it back because it was like, if I take this back, now it's going to look like that me and my son were in cahoots, to kill this woman. And she knew that she had to be the one on the outside to help, excuse me, to get her son off and out of jail. But so you have that. So this is where like the shenanigans start happening and stuff. The story, for the most part, I mean, that's your general consensus of the story. This is how this murder mystery goes on and stuff like that. And like I said, Alex got caught up in a little bit of a romance because she actually had this woman and that was inside of the cooking school that actually helped her, along with one of her sisters, help Alex solve this murder throughout the story. The woman's name was Josephine, and her and Alex actually pick up a romantical relationship throughout the story. Because I had noted in the book that Alex is attracted to women. She's attracted to men and women, but she's actually more attracted to women and, stuff like that. So her and Josephine, they have like this kind of like flirtatious kind of a thing going on throughout the book while Alex is kind of like solving this murder to get her son off. So, like I said, I enjoyed the book for the most part, and I like that she didn't drag like who the murderer was. We actually knew from the beginning of the story who the murderer was, because this is who Alex was looking for, because Alex actually saw the person that committed the murder. So I'm glad we didn't go through that whole thing of like, who did it. Now, why the person that committed the murder did what she did, there was kind of like a dragging in that part, because Alex thought it was something else, but it ended up being this type of a thing, and that kind of like drug out a little bit. There was some editing issues in the book. It looked like, it wasn't a lot, but there were some editing issues throughout the book. It just looked like in some sentences there were some words that were supposed to be deleted and they weren't, and they were still there in the book. So it wasn't that, it wasn't anything like terrible or bad or anything, but there were some editing issues that I caught throughout the book. I love the dynamic of the story, like this whole reversal thing of women, especially women of color, that were in power now, that were kind of like, you had a new America, you had states that with the same name, but it was like New Virginia, New Louisiana, things like that. I love that whole dynamic of women in power, and the world is kind of like this, there's still like, issues and conditions going on, as you see from this murder, but, things are, like Alex said in the book, things are better, but, you still have these problems and stuff like that. So I like that kind of like reversal thing of the book. My only other issue was with I just felt like the story kind of like the pacing of the story. With Alex solving this murder, it kind of like felt like at sometimes throughout the story, it kind of felt like the murder, or Alex solving this murder, took a backseat to her job at the school, because again, she took on this job, as a chef, as a cooking, as a as a cook, as a chef instructor at her friend's school to help him out. And it kind of seemed like there were times throughout the book where her solving this murder to help her son out took a back seat to her working at this school. And I kind of felt like, I kind of felt like that. Like it kind of like the pace, it kind of like slowed the pace of the story, because just when we were getting in like, the groove of things and the story was picking up, especially when she found out a clue, and there were like these chase scenes going on, and there were like these fighting scenes going on, when Alex was confronting these people that she was investigating. Her sister and Josephine were investigating. It kind of felt like once we got to that exciting part, it dropped off, because now Alex was back at the school and she was helping the students with recipes and stuff like that, which is fine, because fine in a way, because I'm gonna tell y'all, just to get off point a little bit, I was hungry as hell reading this book, because the description of the food in this book was just like, oh my god, oh, perfect, oh, wonderful. I was hungry as hell reading this book. But I say that to say this, that I kind of felt like at times, like some of those scenes with the students at the school, like I know that kind of like brought this completeness to Alex's character, her being a chef instructor at the school, and also since her romantic interest Josephine worked at the school as well, I know we had to have some scenes with her at the school actually being a chef instructor. But it kind of like felt like those scenes kind of like took a front seat to the actual murder mystery that was going on, because there were some sections in the book I kind of felt like, okay, so when we're going to get back to her, actually solving this murder and getting her son off, because in the beginning of the book, she was actually able to, get a lawyer for her son and actually get her son out of jail, because he was locked up like from jump. No questions, no nothing. The police were like, we know you did it and that's it. But she was able to get a lawyer and get her son off for the most part. But it was kind of like funny, because it turned out like soon as the boy got out, they had to put him back in jail, because Alex actually wanted police protection for him to so that the person that was doing all this murdering, because it wasn't just this woman that was murdered. There were other people that were on this committee that were being murdered as well. And Alex figured, you know what, let me get this boy back inside jail, at the police station, because that's the only way he's going to be protected from this nut that's going around killing people. So, like I said, there were some great things going on with the story, especially the murder mystery stuff. Alex, especially the parts where Alex, her sister, and Josephine were actually like getting into it. Once with these people that actually committed the crimes and stuff. I mean, like I said, there were some fight scenes and some action scenes in this book, especially between the women themselves. It was just great, you know what I mean? But like I said, I just felt like the pacing of the story sometimes took the pacing of the story kind of like lagged a little bit, once we got not Josephine, but when we got Alex back inside of the school teaching. I mean, those were great moments as well, because you saw her in her element, since her being a chef and stuff, her making these creations and stuff like that and teaching the students and stuff. But again, like I said, with me being repetitive and stuff, it kind of like slowed up the pacing of the story. But for the most part, I enjoyed the book. The book was just wonderful. There were a whole lot of teachable moments going on within the story, especially with women being in power, and men having a back seat, things like that. It was some great teachable moments in this story. You know what I mean? It was just great. because there's this one section I highlighted. It says Alex was in a unique position in which, as a woman of color, she had an easy time of navigating through this world, whereas her son wasn't. You know what I mean? And it goes on to say, granted, she was not given things, but did have to work and train for all that she enjoyed. Her son, on the other hand, though mixed, he had the unfortunate luck of lacking any melanin. He was always her beloved son, but her love could not protect him from the oddities of this world. So, you know, we had that kind of like reverse thing going on, whereas Alex knew her privilege as a woman and as a woman of color, that she had access to things that her son did not have. But women, especially women of color, have always been better at recognizing things like that. Men, especially white men and some white women, you know, when you call them out on you know, their privilege in the access of things in this world that they have, you know, that they have access to, whereas, you know, poor people and people of color, you know, women and women of color don't have access to, you know, they kind of get like huffy, you know, they come up with that same old bullshit line to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and things that happen for you. And it's just like, to me, that's just a whole bunch of bullshit, because people out here, you know, they're working every day. They're doing exactly what they have to do, you know, to get things done in their lives. But, you know, it's kind of like people always want to put aside this whole notion of that there is this white supremacist construct in place to keep certain people, you know, at a certain level, you know, so they won't have too much power. And that, you know, and yeah, we have some black people that are, you know, people of color, not just black people, but people of color in general, that have money, that are in some type of, you know, that have some type of power. But really, how much power do they have in this world? You know what I mean? But going back to my point, women, especially women of color, have always recognized, you know, their place in the world, you know, rather it be at the top or at the bottom. So, you know, I love like this whole reversal thing in the story where, you know, women, especially women of color, had this power, and men were basically, you know, in the doghouse, as they say. But for the most part, I love the story. I'm going to rate this one 4 stars on. I'm going to rate it 4 stars on Goodreads, because just the whole culinary, the mystery murder, this world that they're in where women are in power. I just love that whole, like, how she took those dynamics of everything and just mashed it into this world that she created. So awesome job, Miss Woolfolk. I loved the book. I thought it was great. I actually had the Kindle format. I actually had the Nook. I always say Kindle. I'm so used to saying Kindle, but this actually was on my Nook, not my Kindle. This was actually a Nook book that I had. And also, shout out to Patrice at Mise of a Romance Junkie. She actually did a recommendation post on her blog, and Missing Death was one of the books. So shout out to you, Patrice, for actually recommending this book. It's great. So I, in turn, recommend it to you guys. So that is it for me. Of course, this book is available on your book buying channels. As I said, this was in a Nook format for me. So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and, you know, all your other book buying sites, you can get this book from. So that's it for me. So until the next one, guys, later days. Bye.